doing our Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month Q&A. We did one last year and it was a success. So we are hoping to have a good one again tonight. So I will give a little bit of time to let anybody who's interested log in. But first, let me just explain a little bit about Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month and the theme, Let's Chalk About Love. So last year it was Ask an Advocate, and this year we are doing Let's Chalk About Love. For Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, which is celebrated every February, the national movement this week is Let's Chalk About Love. And so the idea is if the rain clears up, we will go out into our communities and use sidewalk chalk to not only beautify the area, but raise awareness and spread empowering messages to survivors of teen dating violence. In 2006 is when we first nationally recognized Teen Dating Violence Awareness. And it first started as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Week. The first week of February was celebrated as such. And since then, it has grown into Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, actually. That started in 2010. So, wow, we're celebrating 10 years of Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month this year. I'm just now realizing that. So tonight what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about teen dating violence, unhealthy things that we can see in these relationships. But then I received a number of questions from local teens as I went into different schools throughout the month of February and presented on this topic. I asked them to write some questions down anonymously to help out with this Q&A because I really wanted to know what they wanted to know about teen dating abuse, teen dating violence, and healthy relationships for teens. So first, I just want to begin with a general overview of teen dating violence. At the Domestic Violence Center of Chester County, we provide services for teen dating violence because it is a form of domestic violence. So when we talk about domestic violence here, we mean any form of violence or abuse within a family unit, but then also any other form of abuse within an intimate partnership. So that includes marriages, domestic partnerships, but also includes dating situations. And so oftentimes teens who are in these dating situations don't recognize that this is something that can qualify as domestic violence, and this is something that they can also receive these free services for. But I think that it really shocks a lot of people to learn that 1 in 3 teens experience abuse in a relationship. So 1 in 3 teens, regardless of gender identity, will experience some form of abuse. It doesn't have to be physical abuse, although that can be part of it. It can be physical abuse, it can be verbal abuse, it can be emotional and psychological abuse. So all of these things really play into abusive relationships. You can be in a significantly abusive relationship and never experience any forms of physical abuse. So that's an important thing I think that we have to understand and recognize in these relationships, specifically as young people. The other thing that I think is important to understand is that abusive relationships often occur in a cycle, in a pattern. I think it's a common misconception that once a relationship becomes abusive, that it stays that way. Every single day is just abusive from then on. And that is not the case. These relationships can go through distinct patterns, sometimes even cycles. And so we will often talk with young people about a theoretical model called the cycle of abuse, wherein there are 4 stages within abusive relationships that we're constantly cycling through. It's not just abusive and then dealing with that on a regular basis. So when we talk about those 4 stages of the cycle of abuse in intimate partnerships and dating relationships, what we mean is the first stage being the honeymoon stage, which we're all aware of, right? Starting a relationship, falling in love, infatuation, butterflies in our stomach, excitement, feeling flushed in the face and my heart going pitter patter when I see them. The honeymoon is fantastic. And so we start in the honeymoon, and as a lot of us know, the honeymoon does fade. I like to say that in healthy relationships, when the honeymoon fades, we've moved into a place of comfort and safety. So I can be myself with my partner. I feel respected. I feel comfortable to be exactly as I am. I don't feel any judgment coming from them by any means. That's a healthy cycle. The second stage in this 4-stage process of an unhealthy relationship is what I call the red flag stage, where we start to see early warning signs, unhealthy behaviors that might make us uncomfortable or upset us, but we wouldn't think of them initially as abusive per se. So if you're interested in learning about those red flags, what are some of these red flags? Log on to our website, www.dvccpa.org/healthy-dating-resources. That is where you can find a 2-page guide in both English and Spanish that can help us understand these behaviors that we can see early in a relationship that we might not recognize yet as unhealthy. Not abusive, but definitely unhealthy, and if left unchecked, can lead to an abusive place. But feel free at any point throughout this evening, but moving forward, to log in with your kids and show them the things that you're seeing on our Healthy Dating Resources page. So again, it's www.dvccpa.org/healthy-dating-resources. And you'll be able to go through a ton of resources, including a red flags guide. So the second stage in this unhealthy abusive cycle is the red flag phase, where we're seeing unhealthy stuff, but maybe not recognizing it as such yet. The third stage will be an abusive incident, unfortunately. And again, doesn't have to be physical. This could be something verbal. This could be something emotional. But this is where I, as a victim survivor in this scenario, I'm going to draw a line. There's things that I can overlook in a relationship. There's things that I can deal with. There's things that I'm willing to work with my partner on. And then there's things that I'm not going to allow. Abuse is one of those things. So in that abusive incident, that is where I recognize there is something very wrong here. So a lot of times, victim survivors will stand up for themselves, speak out, take a break, take some space from the relationship. Ideally, a lot of times a survivor will leave the relationship after one of these abusive incidents. Unfortunately, the fourth stage is apology and reconciliation. So we see oftentimes survivors needing 4 to 7 attempts to leave this relationship before they can actually break this cycle of abuse and violence. So in considering that, we move into this apology reconciliation phase where our abusive partner is going to do and say in very convincing and believable ways everything that we are looking for them to do and say to get us to forgive them, to get us to move forward from that situation. And so maybe we do forgive them. Maybe we do want to see the best in the people we love. So we're willing to forgive them this time and give them another chance. And that's where we go into the fourth stage, which is right back, we're in the fourth stage. We go right back to the beginning, right back to the honeymoon. So we've had this abusive incident. We've had the apology. Now we do what even healthy relationships don't get to do. We get to revisit the honeymoon stage, that extra loving and passionate and exciting and, butterflies in your stomach, falling in love kind of feeling. And so when you're back on cloud 9, it's really difficult to see the abusive side of things. the negative side of things. We are really seeing the happier things, the loving things. And so it's important to understand that cycle, to note that things might not always be abusive, things might not always be scary. And so we have to keep an eye on these patterns, these cycles. Is my partner, engaging in abusive or unhealthy behaviors, then apologizing and making effort for a little bit, and then doing these same behaviors again? And then apologizing and making effort, and then doing these same behaviors again. If we're picking up on a pattern in these relationships, that's something that we have to keep an eye on. That's something that we have to kind of step outside of the relationship and start reevaluating it. Talking to people. What do you guys think? People that we trust. Things of that nature. So the other thing that I wanted to do is talk about different things that we can see in our friends, in our loved ones, the things that can tell us that this situation might be unhealthy for them. So when we're talking about looking at our friends, our family members, especially from a parent's point of view, if you're worried about your kids, your teens, and you want to know the kinds of things to look for in them, I have a few signs that I wrote down. Obviously, first, if you're noticing physical injuries and wounds, so bruising and things like that, especially bruises without explanations or with explanations that don't make total sense. Another thing is bruises in various stages of healing. I have a really fresh bruise. I have a bruise that looks like it might be a couple weeks old. I have a bruise that looks like it's almost gone and faded. So we can tell that these things have been sustained over a period of time. But talking about other forms of abuse besides physical abuse, because we might not always be able to see these things, physical signs of abuse, but we also might not be experiencing physical abuse in these situations. We might be dealing with significantly abusive relationships, but not anything physical yet. So what are other things, behavioral signs that we can see in the people that we care about that tell us, hey, there's something going on here? So one thing that we might be able to pay attention to is my friend more anxious? Is my loved one more anxious or nervous than they usually would be before? Are they becoming more quiet and more reserved than they've been in the past? Are they a little more secretive? Maybe they used to be able to open up to me about things and now they're holding things back and I can tell that they're being a little more secretive. Do they seem depressed, withdrawn, upset about something? Those are major signs that something could be going on in their relationship. Specifically with teens, things that we want to pay attention to are grades. So are their grades declining? Are they dealing with truancy, other disciplinary issues at school? Those are things to pay attention to. Things like isolation from friends. Noticing, am I a friend? Are they spending less time with me and other friends of ours? Are they spending less time with friends that I'm aware of? If I'm a parent in this situation, are they spending less time with their friends that I'm, aware of and I know that they've spent time with, and I'm not seeing those people come around anymore? I'm really seeing them only hang out with their partner. A good way to pay attention is your teen involved or is your friend involved in extracurricular activities, and are they pulling back from those things also? Different groups, clubs, sports, things like that they're not attending any longer, or they have decided to, I'm not going to do athletics this year. I'm not going to do the musical this year, so on and so forth. Pay attention to those kinds of things. Have you noticed a change in their appearance? So are they dealing with any unexpected or sudden weight loss or weight gain? Just a change in their demeanor and appearance, their hygiene. Are they, dressing in baggier clothes and seem like they have, for lack of a better word, let themselves go? That's something to pay attention to as well. So those are things that we can see as friends, as people who care in those that we love, especially in our teens. But I want to now get into some of the questions that I got from teens in Chester County about unhealthy relationships, and feel free to drop your questions in the comments, and if they're not already covered in here, I will answer those as we go. We had a lot of great questions last year, especially from parents. So feel free to ask anything in the comment section. And if we don't get to it in the questions from our teens, then I'll get to it at the end. So first, one of the questions that came in is, what portion of teen relationships today are considered abusive? So like I said before, 1 in every 3 teens will experience some sort of abuse in a relationship. And this is all the various forms of abuse: physical, sexual, emotional, psychological, verbal abuse, technological abuse, digital abuse, things like that. So 1 in 3 teens, regardless of gender identity. So 1 in 3 teens across the board will experience abuse in a relationship. All right, a couple questions about the cycle of abuse that we got. So how long does the cycle of abuse typically last? That's a really good question. Is there a typical length of time? Not really. Some of these relationships, I've seen it take 1 year, 2 full years to get through the entire cycle of abuse. Another thing we notice is once you get through the cycle of abuse, it will go faster and faster. So it might take a full year, 2 years to get through the cycle of abuse the first time. It might be a little quicker the next go around, and so on and so forth. So that's something to pay attention to. But other things that I've seen are like somebody cycling through those 4 stages of the abusive cycle in 15 minutes via text message. So like honeymoon stage, I text you, "Hey babe, what's going on? I miss you." I don't hear back right away. So red flag phase, I might start spamming your phone. "Hello, where are you? Are you serious?" Right back. "Are you cheating on me? What's going on?" "Hello." I might keep texting because you're not responding. Abusive incident. I might get angry. I might say something abusive. I might curse you out. I might say something inappropriate to you in response to you not, getting back to me quick enough. All right. Then maybe you get to your phone and you see that I've been spamming you. I've been texting you. I'm getting angry. I've started saying not so friendly things. And you respond, "Hey, I was taking a nap," or "I was at dinner with my family. Sorry, I didn't see your texts until now." The apology reconciliation. "Oh, babe, I'm sorry. I was being a little bit crazy. I really wanted to talk to you right now and I got a little bit worried. I'm so sorry." 15 minutes, 20 minutes via text message, and we've gone through the whole cycle of abuse, of violence in these situations. So how long does it typically last? Is there a typical answer? It's really just case by case dependent and how many cycles we've gone through in that relationship and things like that. So just pay attention to patterns. Doesn't matter how long they take, you'll be able to see these things. So what are the true first signs in an abusive relationship is a question that I got. That's a good question. The red flags. Check out our website. Read over our red flags handout. www.dvccpa.org/healthy-dating-resources. Red Flags Guide is in there in English and Spanish, and it is super helpful for you and for teens. But when it comes to the red flags, when it comes to first signs of abuse in a relationship, I'm always going to say the same thing. Listen to your gut. If your gut is telling you that something is not okay here, something is feeling off, I don't feel right about this, that's a red flag. That's a warning sign. Our gut, our instinct is there for a reason. It is there to keep us safe. Not just physically safe, but mentally, psychologically, emotionally safe. And so in these situations, if our gut is screaming at us, this is not safe, this is not healthy, we should listen to it. A lot of times we think we are more logical and we know better, and we talk ourselves out of listening to that gut feeling. Listen to your gut, especially in these kinds of situations in relationships. Here's a really cool question that we got from a teen. How have abusive relationships evolved over the years? I have a great example of how. Cell phones. Cell phones and social media have really changed the landscape of dating violence, specifically for teens. We have so many teens, dealing with digital abuse these days. When I bring the red flags into the classrooms and I'm talking with real teens face to face here in Chester County, I have them talk with each other about the red flags and I ask them, all right, which ones have you guys seen? Like, what do you see most commonly in relationships around you? And every time they bring up all of these red flags with technology. And so I think that technology, the ease of communication, the quickness of communication, the ability to engage in abusive behaviors and abusive and verbal abuse without ever having to see a person. Without that face-to-face contact, it's a lot easier to hurt people's feelings. We don't get to see the immediate reaction. And so a lot of that occurs, but also control, wanting to control what social media apps you're using, who you're friends with, who you follow. Let me see your phone. Let me look at who you're texting. Wanting control in that way. The ease of control, even with GPS locating now, which has become so normalized. When I first started doing this work a number of years ago, we had a training that taught us a lot about technological abuse, and it specifically talked about GPS locating. And these are things that we saw, but GPS locating was something that we really saw in like very high danger, scary, high fatality situations. And now with, the creation of SnapMap on Snapchat, we're able to GPS locate anybody. It has become common practice. And that like really scares me to see that becoming common practice in these relationships, specifically for teens starting so young with literally tracking you with a pin on a map. So that one freaks me out a little bit. I love this question. What would compel someone to hurt someone that they care about? There are so many factors that can go into, why someone would engage in abusive behavior. It could be mental health concerns. It could be fear. It could be, trust issues. Maybe I struggle with trust, and so I feel like I have to act out in controlling ways to get control over those trust fears I have. But one of the big ones that I really want to bring up is trauma. Cycles of abuse continue in generations as well. If I grew up in a household in which I have seen abusive behaviors, in which I've been abused or subject to relationship abuse, I might not know anything differently. I might not have had adult role models to model healthy relationships or even to talk to me about healthy relationships. And so it's difficult to answer what would cause someone to engage in abusive behaviors, but I want to let you guys know that I'm under the belief that, growth is a real thing. No one is beyond redemption. There is room for all of us to grow and change and improve in our lives. And so I think that if you have engaged in behaviors that looking back you think are unhealthy, are potentially abusive, you can fix that. You can grow past that. It's just about, being able to recognize those things in yourself and make a concerted effort, regular, everyday effort moving forward to avoid those things, to engage in healthier alternative behaviors. So yeah, there's a lot of factors that would cause someone to engage in abusive behaviors. I don't think that abusive people are like inherently bad people. So that's an important thing to note. If your partner won't talk to you about a problem you guys are having, what do you do? One of the red flags we often talk about is a partner that won't talk about issues with you. I often say, if you're going to brush things under the rug, brush issues under the rug, you're going to trip over those things. It's going to be a big lump in your rug that you're tripping over. You have to talk about problems in a relationship to get past them. If your partner refuses to do that, if they are stonewalling, which is a term we use that means refusing to have a conversation about these things, changing the subject, walking out, turning it around and avoiding it in any possible way, I honestly say move on from that relationship. That's not going to get better until that person is able to recognize that they need to start taking ownership and being able to have what can be really uncomfortable conversations about relationships. These conversations, like if I've hurt someone and if I've done it unintentionally and if it's someone I really care about, that can be a really uncomfortable thing to face up to and to talk about. We have to do it to get past it. And so there's no real way around it unless we're having real conversations about it. How many abusive qualities, this is one of my favorite questions tonight, how many abusive qualities occur in friendships? Any and all. All red flags, all unhealthy behaviors, all abusive behaviors that we see in relationships, in intimate relationships, are things that we can also see in friendships. If you have friends that are making you feel uncomfortable, that are putting you down, that are engaging in behaviors that are making you feel less than, that's abusive. So just because it's a friendship and not a romantic relationship doesn't mean that it's not abusive. So that's important to note and to recognize. I love this one as well. What are the qualities of a healthy relationship? I can talk to audiences until I'm blue in the face about what abuse looks like. I don't think that can truly help people find healthy relationships. It can help us avoid unhealthy things. If I get out of an unhealthy relationship, I might be able to say something like, hey, I know the things I don't want. I don't want someone who is constantly checking up on me. I don't want someone who talks over me and doesn't listen or value my opinions and my input about things. I don't want someone who, so on and so forth. What do I want? A lot of times I've found that when we ask survivors those questions, what things do you want? What are you looking for? We kind of are at a loss. I don't know. I don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. So I actually asked at Ruston High School a couple weeks ago, the day before Valentine's Day. It was Healthy Relationship Awareness Day. I asked students to write on sticky notes, and it's on our Facebook, check it out, what they felt were the qualities of a healthy relationship. There's two that I always talk about, but first I just want to talk about three that really stuck out to me from those teens themselves. The first is mutual respect. I have to respect my partner. I have to respect their boundaries. I have to respect their thoughts and opinions. I have to respect their goals and ambitions and dreams and their hobbies and activities and things that are important to them. I have to respect their time and space. I have to respect their friends and their family members. So respect mutually, not one-sided respect, but respect that goes both ways is a key quality of a healthy relationship. Trust. I always say you cannot have a healthy relationship without trust. And I'm going to be very real and frank about this trust conversation. Trust is something that can be difficult for some of us. I can very much relate to that. We say like, oh, I have trust issues. I don't like that term. I struggle with trust. A lot of people have reasons that they struggle with trust. These reasons are things like, I've been betrayed by people in the past, or, I've never really had someone I felt I could trust. And so it's important to understand that trust struggles, that's my thing to deal with. So if you struggle with trust, you have to work on that. We can't put our trust issues on our partner. We can't put these things on someone else, right? We have to work on it ourselves. So I'll always say, if you're still in a place where you're aware that you struggle with trust, you might not be in the place to be in a relationship yet. You might have to do some work on you first. You might have to work on trust before you're able to fully commit to another person and be in that healthy relationship that has trust. Another thing that I thought was awesome that the teens themselves came up with that I had never said myself is consistency. You need consistency to have a healthy relationship. We talk about the cycle of abuse. We will see abusive individuals, perpetrators of abuse, start behaving in really healthy ways for a little while. And then they fall back into those old patterns. Consistency is the key. I need to see this become a consistent thing in our relationship. I need consistent trust, consistent respect. So that's a huge part of it. Now, the two things that I always talk about are ownership and transparency. So ownership, I talked about it a little bit earlier, is the ability to acknowledge when I've done something wrong, when I've done something to hurt my partner, to acknowledge that it happened, to acknowledge and validate their feelings and experience. Instead of saying things like, oh my God, I was just joking, learn to take a joke, oh, it wasn't that big a deal, it's not that deep, it's not that serious, you're overreacting. Those are things we often see, not just partners saying, but friends, family members. I see, even the comment section on social media, we'll see people saying like, oh, you're overreacting, it's not that serious, it was just a joke, why can't we joke these days, so on and so forth. When we're in a relationship with someone, even if it was just a joke, even if I had really good intentions, I can unintentionally hurt someone. When I care about them, when I want a healthy relationship, brushing it off as just a joke, as learn to take a joke, not that serious, not that big a deal, that's unacceptable. I have to take ownership. I have to acknowledge. I have to validate their feeling and their experience there. So that's huge. I can say something like, listen, I promise you I was honestly just trying to joke with you. I was trying to make you laugh. I can totally see where that joke was, misinterpreted or hurt you in a way. I can see how it kind of crossed a line. I will not do that anymore. I'm really, truly sorry. And then that consistency. I have to make that effort moving forward not to do that hurtful thing again. And then transparency is the other thing I talk about with healthy relationships. With transparency, what I mean, like what does transparency literally mean? To be able to see through something, right? So be transparent with your partner. That means telling them exactly how you feel and asking them for what you need to feel better. 9 times out of 10, when you ask for what you need, you get it. People are not mind readers in relationships. If you don't tell me how you're feeling, I'm not going to know how you're feeling. If you don't tell me and ask for what you need from me to feel better, I'm not going to magically know to do it. So transparency is huge. Saying how you feel and asking for what you need. So, for example, a red flag is using jealousy to control your partner. I often say jealousy is a normal human emotion. We've all felt jealous at one point or another in our lives. And that's okay. It's normal. It's human. It's okay to be jealous. That's when we should engage in transparency with our partner. Hey, babe, listen, might be a little weird to you, but I'm feeling a little jealous today. I'm feeling a little insecure. I might just need a little extra love and validation from you. Is that cool? That's transparency. That's what it's all about. Saying how I feel, being real about it, asking for exactly what I need to feel better. Okay, how do you get help when your partner threatens you if you do? There's a lot of questions here about this. How do I get help if my partner's threatening me? How do I get out of an abusive relationship? How can I deal with an abusive relationship? How do I get out of one? How do I get out of one? How do I safely get out of one? So first and foremost, if you need to get out of an abusive relationship, do it. And if you feel unsafe, if they're threatening you physically, threatening your family, your loved ones, threatening themselves, there's different things that you can do. Point them in the direction of help. Let someone that you trust, that they trust, deal with that. Talk to their parent. Talk to a teacher, a counselor, an adult that you trust, and point that person in the direction of help. But if you need to leave that relationship, do so in the safest way possible. During breakups, what we will see is something called breakup violence. It's like a category in itself that people talk about, but it's very much a part of these relationships. So breakup violence often escalates. So this is when we see physical abuse escalate. This is when we see, unfortunately, homicide rates escalate, is during or immediately after a breakup. So we have to know how to safely do this. First and foremost, do not end this relationship alone with this person. Don't do this in a private place, just the two of you. Don't meet up in a park locally and go for a hike or go for a walk. Don't invite them to your house after school when your parents are still at work. Don't go to their house when their parents aren't there. Don't get in their car and go for a drive. Don't bring them into your car and go for a drive to talk about things. Just try to do this in a public place with lots of people around. Bring people you trust with you. I prefer that you might do it via text message, via FaceTime. Call them on the phone. Send a carrier pigeon. I don't really care. Just do it in a safe way that's not going to get you hurt. The other thing that's important is to tell people what's been going on. Talk to adults and other people that you trust to keep this, private if you'd like to keep it private, that you trust to support you and not to judge you, to believe you, to validate you. Talk to people. Abuse thrives in silence. So we really want to talk about it and make it known what's been going on. And then I honestly will say, don't hang out with them again. It's over 60% of these relationships end with a period of stalking behavior. They are going to try and see you again, to talk to you again. We don't need to have this make-believe sit-down conversation to get closure. You can get closure independently. That whole idea that we need to sit down and talk things through and hash it out is not real. So feel free to get closure on your own outside of the relationship, but we don't need to hang out with an abusive partner afterward to talk about things. They are honestly going to either escalate that physical abuse or try and get you back into the cycle of abuse, and it's not going to be a healthy and safe situation. The other thing is, if you need to get help, if they're threatening you, if you feel physically unsafe in that situation, there's something called a Teen Protection from Abuse Order. If you don't know what a PFA is, a Protection from Abuse Order, it's essentially a restraining order. But it's for those people in intimate relationships, in abusive relationships, in domestic violence relationships. And so it's important to understand that if you're in a situation where you really do not feel safe, a PFA is the right option for you. And as a teen, you can get a PFA, but you'll need an adult to go with you. So find an adult that you trust to accompany you. And if it's a confusing process, advocates at Domestic Violence Center can help you for free with every step of the process. All right, here's a great one. How do you help your friends in an abusive situation? How do you talk to a friend who's going through an abusive situation? What can your friends do to help? I have a friend who doesn't want to talk about mental health. They think that those conversations are taboo. How can I talk to them about their experiences with their partner? So a lot of great questions about how to help our friends who are in these situations. I know very much about this. Experiencing an abusive and controlling relationship myself as a teen. My friends were a catalyst in helping me see what was happening and leave that relationship. My friends were a huge part of the puzzle of getting me to where I needed to be. So I've come up with some really important things that my friends did that I knew really helped me. The first is you have to talk to survivors and victim survivors of abuse. You have to come from a non-judgmental place. First and foremost, because being judgmental never helped anyone. You know, oh, my super judgmental friend was the most supportive friend I have. No one says that. So if you're judging someone, and if you're acting in a very judgmental way, you're not going to help them. You got to leave that stuff at the door. The I would, and I think you should, and I woulda, and if I were in this situation, none of that applies because it's not you. It's your friend. Until it is you, you can't say what they should do because it isn't you. It isn't your situation. So you've got to go into the situation completely non-judgmentally, judgment-free. Statistically, we know these things take 4 to 7 breakups. So if I'm judging my friend for getting back together with that person, I'm first off not understanding the full scope of these situations and that it's very common that they'd get back together with these people. But the other thing is that, you know, they're not going to feel supported and they're not going to want to open up to me about the more serious things that might be going on. The second thing I'll always say is just listen. Have you ever had a moment where you're venting about something that's been bothering you and someone just starts giving you a bunch of advice you didn't want, you didn't ask for, you just needed to vent? Don't be that person, especially in an abusive, with a friend or a family member who's in an abusive situation. They are not telling you what's going on for you to tell them what to do. They're just trying to get it off of their chest. They carry a weight on their shoulders everywhere they go, every single day. And so in that, just listen. Just listen to what they have to say. And then if you do want to respond, validate them. We talked about how partners can often brush these things aside. Oh my gosh, it wasn't that serious. It's not that big a deal. You need to learn to take a joke. You're overreacting. You're being crazy. Calm down. Things like that. Be the person that validates their experience and their feelings. How did that make you feel? Scared? I would have felt scared too. I think anyone in a situation like that would have been scared, would have been angry, would have been hurt, so on and so forth. Validate your friends and your loved ones' feelings and validate their experience. Let them know that wasn't okay. They said that was a joke. I don't think it was a funny joke. That's something really hurtful to say. Validate those things for your friends and let them know your experience there was very real. Your feelings were very real. That your partner invalidating that isn't okay. The other thing is to provide them with options. Let them know. It can be something as simple as like, do you want to go do something this weekend, just the two of us? We can get your mind off of it. That's huge. Just being there. Listen, if you ever need to call me any time of day. Text me, day and night. I don't care. Just let me know. If you need me, I'll be there. You can let them know, hey, let's call the Domestic Violence Center hotline. I'll pretend that it's me in the situation and we can just kind of see how the phone call goes. Let's go talk to a counselor together. Let's talk to, someone at Domestic Violence Center. Or if this is, in school, let's go talk to a guidance counselor. Let's talk to one of the, support staff here that we trust, that we know can help us. That's a huge part of these things. Unfortunately, we have to understand that one of their choices is always going to be, I want to make this situation work. I want to try again in this relationship. I want to stay with my partner. That is a very realistic choice that the people we love might make. We have to let them know that that is an option that we're going to support, even if we don't want to support it. Even if on the inside we're like, oh my God, no, do not get back together with them. The fact is, we got to let them know. If you do choose to stay in this situation, I am still here for you. I have your back 100%. I support your choice wholeheartedly. To let them know that if they make that choice, that you're still going to be there to talk to. Because if you don't let me know that, or if you tell me the opposite, if you say, you got to break up with this person, I can't hear about this stuff anymore if you don't break up with them. If I get back together with them, I might not come to you for advice or help or anything anymore. I might cut you out of my life completely. And so that's a really important thing to note in these situations is I might end up cutting you out if you don't let me know that you're not going to judge me, that you are going to support me, no matter if I get back together with this person. So as much as we might hate to support our friends when they do that, we have to. It's the only way that they're going to trust us and keep us in their lives and keep coming back for our support. The last thing I always say that I think is huge is a lot of, counseling in general is based around modeling behavior for people. Parenting is based on modeling behavior for our kids. And so in that, as friends and loved ones, we can make a huge difference in the lives of victim survivors of abuse by loving them, by modeling love for them. So if I'm loving my friend the right way, because love is an action, right? It doesn't matter if it's my friends, my partner, my family, my pets, what have you. Love is love. Love is a verb. So if I'm loving someone the right way, then they're going to feel that love. They're going to feel confident, empowered, like they're fun and wanted and worthy. And, when I used to walk into a room and, I was in an unhealthy relationship at the time and my partner was in that room, I felt like I was walking into a party I wasn't invited to. I felt like I was bringing the mood down. When I was around friends who loved me the right way, that shifted completely. I felt not just like I was invited to the party, like they really wanted me to be there. And when I would walk into a room with people that loved me, I felt that love. I felt like I am fun. I am cool. I am fun to be around. I'm funny. I'm smart. I felt very good about myself exactly as I am. And so when I would see that name on my phone, when I would be with my partner, I didn't feel that way. That is how I recognized what love was and what the situation I was in was. That wasn't love. I did not feel loved with that person. I feel love with my friends. So a great way to help people in these situations is to really, truly just love them. Love them through these things. Model that behavior. Empower them by loving them and supporting them. I was really excited that a couple students actually asked about us and the work that we do at the Domestic Violence Center. What ways does the Domestic Violence Center help those involved in domestic violence? And do a lot of people use the resources at the Domestic Violence Center, or are people afraid to speak out? So first and foremost, what ways do we help those involved in violent relationships? In several ways. So we provide a wide variety of services. We really try to treat almost every issue that a victim survivor of domestic violence might be facing. So we have an amazing counseling department and support services. So individual counseling, several support groups throughout Chester County, even support groups in Spanish that are available. We have different support groups and counseling options for children. So that's an important thing to note as well. We have a licensed therapist on staff who can assist with significant trauma. Unfortunately, sometimes we see victim survivors leave these situations with PTSD. And so we have a therapist on staff who can help treat that, which is really wonderful. We have an amazing legal team, because legal help is so important to be able to press charges, to be able to walk through the confusing legal steps and processes, especially if you need to get a restraining order or something like that. So we have a large staff of legal advocates and several staff who are bilingual who can assist in getting a PFA, who can walk you through the steps of the hearings that you might have to go through for criminal charges, who can let you know what to prepare for, who can clear up any of the confusion that you might be facing in dealing with the legal system. Legal jargon can be confusing. They can kind of help translate those confusing legal documents for you. They can even sit down with you and help you fill out legal paperwork. So we have a wonderful legal team that is so supportive. We even have 3 full-time staff attorneys that can represent survivors of abuse. So that's amazing. Our legal team has grown. Our counseling team has grown tremendously. We have several housing options. We have an emergency shelter, a long-term transitional shelter, and then we have some more permanent housing options and transitional housing options. 13 3-bedroom townhomes and 4 1-bedroom apartments for single individuals here in Chester County. And so it's important. Those are a lot of our direct services that we provide, as well as our education and prevention services, things like teen dating violence programming, our Coaching Boys into Men program, our lethality assessment program in which we support our local law enforcement, our healthcare trainings in which we go to local hospitals and train doctors and nurses and healthcare practitioners on how to identify and refer domestic violence survivors to our services. So we help in a wide variety of ways. There's several things that we can assist with. We have a 24-hour hotline that you guys can utilize, 1-888-711-6270. You can give us a call any time of day, weekends, holidays. Someone is there to talk with you, to help you through these things. And the coolest part is that all of these services are completely free. So feel free to use them. They are here for you. And do a lot of people use this resource? Yes, thankfully. Last year, we assisted over 1,700 brand new individuals alone. That's just brand new individuals. And so we assist over 1,500 brand new individuals every year, and that number continues to grow. So a lot of people do use the resource. And yes, while they are scared to speak out, this is a great resource for them. This is a completely confidential resource. No one will find out that you're utilizing these resources, so feel free to reach out. This is completely private and confidential service that you can access. We also receive almost over 3,500, close to 3,600 hotline calls every year as well. So yeah, a lot of people do utilize this resource, and we have the capability for a lot more people to utilize this resource. So feel free to. I've gone through all of the questions from real teens that I've collected this month throughout Chester County. So now I just kind of want to open it up. If anybody who is on our live feed has any questions that you might not have been logged on for, or you might not have heard the answers for, you might have a little more that you want to know, feel free. Now is the time to ask anything. I'd love to answer any of your questions. In the meantime, I'm going to pop a comment on here and give you guys the link to that Healthy Dating Resources page that we created this month for teens. So it's there in the comments section, and you can feel free to click on there and it will take you to our Healthy Dating Resources page. It is full of videos interactive games and quizzes and guides for teens. Our homemade red flags handout is on there in both English and Spanish. Video content, tons of video content. So that's a great resource. If you weren't able to make the live Q&A tonight with your kids, feel free to log on to that site there in our comment section with your kids and watch some of those videos. Talk about those things with them at home. Ask them if they go to a school that we've talked to them. Have you met me? Have you seen one of our presentations? What did they think of it? Love to know. But again, if there's any more questions, we only have about 4 or 5 minutes left. I don't want to end too early, but I've been talking for about an hour. So if anybody is still out there and still has an unanswered question, feel free. Otherwise, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. once again on Instagram at DVCCCPA. Come follow us on Instagram, and we will be having another Q&A. A lot of similar questions, a lot of similar stuff here, but another time for you guys to be able to log on and ask some questions, learn some stuff about teen dating violence, and communicate with us, engage with us. So thank you guys. I saw so many of you logging in, and I appreciate it. I think we had a lot more than last year on our live stream. So it was great talking with you and sharing a little bit of my experiences and a little bit of, what we've learned from the teens here in Chester County, and some of the answers to their questions that they had. So it was great to chalk about love with you. Get your sidewalk chalk out. If it's a sunny day tomorrow, get out there. Write some statistics about teen dating abuse. Write some empowering messages. Write our website, our social media, our hotline number out there so people can find resources to help them. Let's talk about love more. Let's talk more really on a regular basis about healthy love and healthy relationships. But have a great rest of your night, and I really look forward to answering additional questions in the comment section tonight if any come up. So thank you guys once again, and hopefully be seeing you guys out in the community at an event soon. Have a good night.